The shift came one day when I was worried about the mortgage. Of course, the mortgage is the biggest bill. And that was the only bill that ever concerned me. All the other bills are small bills. I've never carried a whole lot of debt. So even though I had credit cards, I would pay them off. I never had a whole bunch of debt. And the job that I was in for 16 years paid for my college degree. So I had no college debt. You know what I mean? So it was really the mortgage that was my biggest burden, shall we say. And so anytime it looked like my ability to pay the mortgage. Now, I have never not paid my mortgage. I've never been late paying my mortgage, but I always had the concern. It didn't stop the concern and the fear from coming up. So that would repeatedly happen if I had like a dip in revenue or not as many clients as I thought I was going to have or whatever, you name it. That fear, am I going to miss my mortgage and they're going to take my house from me, was always lurking in the background, right? Always lurking in the background. Wells Fargo going to take my damn house, you know? Always lurking in the background. But it happened one day, Rachel, when I said, fuck it, take the house.
I feel like that's where I'm at right now. Honestly.
That's where I was. I was like, you know what? This fear, I think the recurring fear that kept coming up, even though it wasn't massive, and I have always been able to pay my mortgage, the fact that it always came up and the anxiety with which it came up with, it wasn't like horrific anxiety, but you know when you can feel the tension within your body. You know, you get up and you're like, the mortgage, you know, and you could feel the constriction within your physical body. That's where I was. And I woke up one morning with that same tension, like the mortgage, you know, and I was like, you know what? I am so getting sick of this. I'm sick of feeling this way. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. Take the damn house. If the money isn't there, take the house. I would rather live under a bridge than live under this constant pressure, you know what I mean? Or with this anxiety. And so when I let it go, like I didn't have to pay it, you know what I mean? Suddenly I felt like I don't care. So I don't have to pay it if I don't really need to.
Yeah.
It was like it broke open this thing within me where it's like, well, if I lose the house, I'll just go live somewhere else. And that somewhere else is to be determined, whatever. You know what I mean? Like I have friends I could live on their sofa. They'll take, you know, I'll sleep there or whatever. So what I did was face the greatest fear, because my fear was like, oh, I'll lose the house. Right. And I really sat with that. I'm like, okay, so what if you lose the house? And I played it all the way out. Like, if I lost the house, I could probably do this because, hey, I have a background in that. And I could probably do this. I could probably get a job doing this. I could probably get some other kind of job. You know what I mean? And like literally played out all the fears, because it's the fear that keeps us so constricted. What if this happens? Right. And when I didn't care anymore, I was like, fuck it. If I can't pay my mortgage, I don't care. When I let it go, all of a sudden, and I didn't expect it to open me up, I was just sick and tired of the recurring concern. And I just wanted to let it go. It's like, oh God, it's still heavy. I just want to let it go. And it was like, it's like carrying a rock in a backpack. And at a certain time you go on, damn, this is hurting my shoulder, you know? And then you just want to take the damn backpack with the rock off and just be free. You know what I mean? And so I thought in my mind, the way to be free is just lose the damn house and not care. You know what I mean? And when I did that and I dropped the backpack with the rock, and this is a reiteration of how contrast brings you into more expansion. Right. I didn't expect to feel open. I just didn't care. I was like, I don't give a shit. Take the damn house, right? I didn't expect it to open me up. But when I said, I don't give a shit, take the damn house, all of a sudden, I didn't have the worry. Yeah. Because I was like, I don't care. Take the house, I don't care. And when the worry lifted, all of a sudden, my awareness expanded into that whole new way of thinking, like money is like air. I actually heard somebody talk about money that way, right? I was a vibrational match to that. And they caused me to think about life in a different way. And more, it's like I became open for spirit to bring, for life, for my higher self to bring into my experience a different level of knowledge and awareness.
Yeah.
That wasn't my intention. Remember, I was just going, I don't give a shit. That was my intention. But the minute I let go of the backpack with the rock in it, all of a sudden, like, yeah, I was like, oh, that's a relief. You know? And in the energy of relief, it's like I accidentally opened myself up to becoming more aware of what is possible. And as I opened, and that was the first time. It happened again when I got divorced, right? When my second marriage ended, of course, me and military man swimming in money, right? And military man took his money and left, you know? And I'm back to my own paycheck now, right? My own money again. And it was scary. So I went through the same thing, right? Even though I'm the one who suggested divorce, and I knew that I didn't want to be married. I knew that I became very much aware that I'm an autonomous soul. You don't need to be living with nobody else, and you just don't want to stop lying to yourself. But and he knew that too. We were kind of slowly moving up to that, but I was the one that suggested it because he's a Christian and he never will suggest divorce. And I'm like, it looks like we're moving down this path. But the minute I decided, it was the weeks prior when I saw that we were moving in that direction. That's when the fear came up. He's taking his 6 figures and going. No, it's just my 6 figures left. What? Oh, and the fear played itself out, and I went through the same thing. I don't give a shit, right? Because I had already experienced that, so I knew I could go back there, right? So I went back there. I'm like, fine, I don't give a shit. I lose the house. I was back to, we didn't lose the house. We were both paying for the house because when we got married, he came and lived in the house that I bought. So it came up again there. So my point is, it didn't leave forever when it first happened. So it came up when I was getting divorced the second time. It came and it kept coming up whenever some kind of financial static happened. It would keep coming up again. But each time it came up, I remembered how I got out of it the last time. So I kept feeding on, oh, this is what I did the last time. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? So I kept going back to that. But the I don't give a shit gave me the instant relief, and then the opening to hear a different way of thinking about it. So each time it happened, I kind of defaulted to the I don't give a shit. But then that gave me the relief to receive more. Again, in the contrast is the opportunity for greater expansion. And I think each time it happened, I received a different perspective in conversations with spirit on how to move through it. Because it felt different each time, even though it was the same thing coming up over and over and over. And then I just got to this place of peace.
Yeah.
It was gradual. It was a gradual letting go of the concern, just a gradual letting go of the concern. And then I just moved into this. You know what it was that I moved into is I stopped thinking about my life and the small events of my life to be solved. Because it was like, oh, this comes up, how to move through it. 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 And I moved into another place of life is full of events.
Right. This
They'll
is all
never
life.
stop coming up. They'll keep coming up. It's just life is just full of life events. And one thing after another will keep coming up. That's just the way life is. But who am I?
Yeah, I get that. It's like you chose freedom.
And I chose freedom above the little, like life going like this. Do, 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 do. And every time it went like this, I'd go, okay, what process can I use to move?
Yeah, I get it.
Let me go listen to one of the audios of Conversations with Spirit or whatever. And that's fine for a while, but then you get to this place of freedom where you're like, it feels like, and this is not the best analogy, but it feels like life is down here doing its thing, right? And I somehow moved up here where I'm just in this peaceful flow. And contrast continues to happen. But as I mentioned in the earlier part of this event, I changed my response to contrast so that I'm not searching for an answer when contrast happens. It was, contrast happens with this knowing that it comes up with curiosity, and the curiosity isn't filled with anxiety like it used to be. And it happened because more and more I became aware of who I am. It's like all these things are happening, but who am I? Wait. I am a limitless, eternal being. And one of the recurring things that come up for me is, when I get dead, will this matter? And I know that's not the best place for other people to go. But because I was so incessant about watching near-death experiences, I am very much aware of what life looks like when you're done with life. Right. And so I tend to go to the afterlife perspective. Like, will this even with the abundance of money and playing in the stock market and all that, there's a huge part of me that's like, this does not matter. Like, it really doesn't matter. I remember when I sold my house, and it sold for almost double what I bought it for. What's interesting is that no part of me went, oh my God, this is so awesome. No. Like, no part of me went there. I was like, this is just another life event.
It's so funny that you say that, because that happens to me too.
Yeah.
Like when things, because like, I think that's why there's always peace now. Because even as I'm talking about it, there's like this peace that's there.
Like, that's like, there. That's there.
Yeah, and it's even when good things happen, quote unquote. It reminds me.
Yeah, the intense human emotions around anything, even good stuff that's happening.
Yeah, it doesn't like make me
feels
go,
more
oh my God,
yeah, it feels more leveled off. It feels more leveled off for me.
Yeah.
And when I bought this house, even though it was everything I wanted, and it definitely was a manifestation of my desire, but even when I walked in, it was just peaceful. Yeah, this is how it works. You embody it, and then it follows you, and it expands in your experience, and it comes through. So the intense human emotions around good things that are happening or challenging things that are happening, none of those things throw me in a high, those high intense emotions aren't happening as much in my life anymore. It feels more leveled off. Somebody actually replied to my abbreviated life update, and they're like, you're very mellow now. I still have my feisty side, trust me. But I do feel a lot more, even my opinions of things aren't intense. It's like, yeah, I have a perspective on this, but it's not like, here's what I think. Everything feels more leveled off. But I think the shift and the change and the transition didn't come with a particular experience or getting any particular thing or anything like that. it literally came with expanding into more and more of the awareness of who I am. So all of the human things that I got, like when life was going like this, I was going like this. My emotions was going like this. And I was just following the trajectory of life. If I couldn't pay a bill, or if I couldn't do this, or if a client said no, or and my embodiment followed the trajectory of life. And now life is happening, and I am observing life happening, and I know it's the game I came to play. So it's all happening like this. But there's this overarching, more prevalent awareness that everything that I'm experiencing is temporal. And so as it's happening, I know it's temporary, even when it's a high, even when it's something fabulous that happens. Well, that's happening now, and then something else will happen later. And so I have this overarching awareness of the temporal nature of everything in human life, not just the bill, not just the illness, not just all these different things. It feels very temporal to me. And so there's this overarching awareness that human life is temporal and I'm eternal. And so as the different aspects of human life is going like this, because it always does, it's just like the stock market. Right? It's going like this, right? It's going like this. And as it's going like that, there's this greater awareness. All of this is going to be done one day, and I'm going to move on to my next adventure as a non-physical being. So that awareness that I'm a non-physical being and this is temporal and I'm eternal is at the backdrop of everything that I experience now. Almost. I could dip into, I could follow a human experience still. I'm sure if something suddenly happens in my life, I'll feel the intensity of the human emotion. But I am for certain, there's no aspect of me that doubts that I will move right back into this awareness that it is temporal, no matter how jagged it is and how intense the emotions are. There's this greater awareness at play in my entire human experience that says everything you're experiencing is temporal and you are eternal. And all of this that you think matters so much now and has so much emphasis now will not matter at all once you're done with this life. And you will move on, and this will seem, this entire, if I live till 100, this entire 100 years on earth will feel like a pebble in a pond. And that awareness is becoming more and more predominant, such that the elements of human existence no longer feel significant, even the good ones.
I get that. I totally get that, for sure.
And if you were to ask, well, how did you get into this overarching awareness? Through the contrast. Every time contrast occurred, Spirit offered up another opportunity to become more aware, and another opportunity to become more aware, and another opportunity to become more aware. And the more those opportunities to become more aware occurred, the more I became aware the contrast is here to offer me more opportunity. And so the contrast became less and less of an issue to resolve. And my awareness that it's there for expansion put me in the expectation of expansion, which then put me into this more eternal perspective on life itself.
Yeah.
And as we close, I just wanted to remind you to always take only that which resonates, because your higher self, your inner being, your soul, your spirit knows what is relevant for your unique personal journey at this point in time. And it's always wise to check in with your heart to see what genuinely resonates, and move forward with only that. And know that you are always free to fully trust your inner guidance above any external guidance you may receive. See you soon.